Valleys are purposeful. Valleys are purposeful. God, he has, believe it or not, he's got a reason that you're walking through a valley. He doesn't waste your hurt. I realized that several years ago when, you go through one of those seasons where you cry a whole lot more than you thought you had tears. And you begin to realize that God sees every single tear you cry, and he's not going to waste one of them. You go through what you go through for a purpose. Everything that happens to a believer is Father filtered. We could say shepherd filtered. Everything that God does or everything that God allows in your life is for a purpose, but you have to remember that. In fact, James chapter 1, verse 2 and 3 says this, dear brothers and sisters, now get it here, when he says brothers and sisters, he's talking to the church, he's talking to sheep, right? He's our shepherd, he's talking to Christians. He says, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. I know that sounds weird. Keep reading. For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. Why do we forget that? He's saying, you know this. You know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. He's saying, you know this, but how often do we forget what we know when the pain is high? He's saying, you know. It's interesting, whenever we go through tough circumstances, we can so easily forget something that we already know. And we need to be reminded again that this valley that I'm walking through is purposeful, but when the pain of the valley gets high, the temptation to forget what we know is very prevalent, and then we just focus on the pain. I can remember studying with my children at the table for school, maybe a test that was coming up, and you know how you do, you start quizzing them on things, and we get to the point where their brain is really suffering because we've been there so long. Dad, I don't want to be here right now. Come on, you can do this. We got to finish this. And then it gets to a certain point where even though you're asking easy questions, they don't know them. Am I the only one that goes through this? Come on, all parents, say hallelujah. You ask kids these questions, and I'm going, you know this. Come on, you know this. But it's interesting, when you focus on the pain, it makes you forget what you already know. And I'm going, you already know this. And I ask them this easy question, and they look at me with this deer in the headlights look. And I'm going, look, you've already answered it one time. Like you are. Isn't it interesting how God has to remind you what you already know because you're focused so much on the pain you can't see the purpose for which he's putting in your life? That he's putting that valley there. Some of you are so focused on the pain of your situation, you're forgetting that God has a wonderful purpose for it. And he's saying, you know this. You're forgetting that, you know what? God is bringing me through it, and he's got a purpose in it. And James is saying in this verse, you know this, these troubles, even though they're hard, you know that they're producing something in you. You know this. Don't forget it. And that's why Paul told the Romans in chapter 8, verse 28, he says, you know that all things work together for good to those who love God and who are called according to his purpose. Turn to somebody and say, you know this. You know it. You know it. Come on, valley is purposeful.